So I was sitting here on my couch tonight, way too late. I should have been in bed already. But I was thinking about some of the unexpected truths that I've learned probably in just the last 12 months that I never would have learned had I not gone through the things that I've gone through. And I just wanted to hop on for a second and share this with you guys because I wish somebody would have been real with me at the beginning when I was very first getting started and said, all right, here's all the things that you're going to face. And if I were going to talk about all the things that I faced over the years, this would be a 10-hour video. But what I want to talk about is specifically in regards to, now I know I talk a lot about starting your own online business. But there comes a point where you've started your business and then what comes next, right? And without going into all the details of my whole story, I have so many parts of my story, as we all do. And I think one of the things that I've been thinking about lately is, if you hear that squeak, that's my dog in the background. Paxy boy. Pax, hi buddy. Hi, I love you. Oh, yes I do. I love you. You're such a good boy. Here's what I've learned over the years is that, I spend so much of my time throughout the day working with new business owners, people who want to build an online business. But at some point, as you grow your online business, you need to move to the next level. And I wish I would have had somebody who would have told me some of the things that I was going to face as I was growing and scaling. And so I wanted to make this very candid. It's like 1 a.m, but I couldn't sleep. And I was sitting here thinking, all right, what are some of the things that I've learned as I've grown and scaled my online business that I wish somebody would have told me? But I was reflecting tonight on some things, especially in the last year. We've grown rapidly and we've grown a lot. We've helped a lot of people, but that hasn't come without struggle. And I think it's important for people to realize, I think we have this idea in our head that, once we hit a certain level, it's easy. There's no more work. It can be that way if you want. But if you're anything like me, I don't know if I'll ever be able to totally turn it off. Like, that is part of my personality. It is. Like, I love the challenge to some degree, but it's also hard. I know that there are so many people out there that sell you on the idea of it's going to be hard for a while and then easy. And it can be if you want that. But if you want to keep going, if you don't want to just stay in the same place that you're at, there's always going to be a new level of hard. What I wish somebody would have told me there's like a zillion things that I wish people would have told me earlier on. I didn't have anybody. Like, I built my business by trial and error, by starting it from scratch. And I don't want that for other people. I want other people to have like a shortcut method, right? And one of the things that I always say is, I look at my day-to-day now, and part of the reason I think in the times where we've really grown and been successful and scaled is when a number of things. One, when I've reinvested back into the company. And I have another video coming out soon where I shared like logistics and details and tactics on this, but you can't be afraid to reinvest. And it feels really, really scary at the beginning. And the analogy I kind of like to think about, and I don't know if this is going to connect with everybody, but I love fishing. My claim to fame is I've held multiple Idaho State fishing records. They've been broken. I know that. A few different points in my life I had them. I love fishing. And if you don't fish, this is not going to connect with you. But when it comes to fishing, it's like a feeling, right? You cast and it's a feeling. It's the only way I know how to explain it in your fingers. Salmon fishing, if anybody here has ever salmon fished before, it's not just like you throw it out and you hope you catch a fish. And sometimes that can happen. But for the most part, it's you put a weight on your line, you let it hit the ground, and it's a feeling, and I don't know how else to describe it. It's you feel the bump of the rocks, or you feel the bump of the rocks, and then a rubbery feeling, and that's when you know how to set the hook. It's kind of like that with business in a little bit, right? Like, and you're going to hit so many different chapters, but I guess I'm just explaining the last chapter that I've been in, or I guess probably the last 3 years is what I'm trying to describe here. Is there's this balance, and sometimes it comes down to a feeling. There's not like, I wish there was a specific formula that I could give you of like, all right, this specific percentage or the specific dollar amount is what you need to reinvest back into your company, is the amount of hours that you need to work. Like, it's constantly changing, just like fishing, right? It depends on the water level, the CFS, the stream that's coming down the river, the fish, the time of year, the fish that are coming up. It's very much like that with an online business, right? And as you grow, what's going to happen is you're going to try different things. You're going to try different colors of yarn, different types of bait. You're going to try things until you figure out, all right, I think this is the one that works for me. And if it doesn't work, we're going to try something else. And with the business, it's kind of similar to that, where, you are going to hit different levels where you're going to have to start outsourcing. You're going to have, as you grow and scale, you're going to have to start having this like protective barrier around your mind, where every little thing that people say, you can't let influence necessarily your mind. You have to think about all the experiences you've been through up until that point. And then you have to say, all right, I know I tried this in the past. I know I tried this, just like fishing. I know I tried this bait, this color. And so based on my past experience, I think this is going to work. But if it doesn't work, what am I going to do? Just like fishing, you ask the other people around you, you get friendly, you say, hey, my name's Natalie. What's your name? Oh, that's awesome. What are you using over there? I see you're catching some stuff, right? And you ask other people. But there can become a point where if all you're doing is walking on the bank and asking other people what they're using, and then you get paralyzed, you're like, well, that person said to try this lure, and that person said to try this bait, and that person said to try roe, and that person said to try yarn, and that person said to try tuna bags. And again, I recognize I'm speaking to people who probably only understand fishing, and everybody else is like, what is this crazy girl talking about? But I want to share this because if you spend too much time listening to what everybody else thinks, all of a sudden it can become really, really, really easy to be like, I don't know, I got all these opinions and I don't know what to do. So I'm just going to watch what everybody else is doing. And guess what? You go home with no fish. And it's kind of similar to that with a business, right? There is a point where it 100% makes sense to reinvest into your company with mentors, with coaching. But if you start getting this, what I call shiny object syndrome, which I am so guilty of, I have done so many times in my life, where you're like, well, this person says to do that, and this person says to do that, and this person says to do that. And all of a sudden you're sitting thinking, well, I don't know exactly what to do because some of these things are conflicting. Then all of a sudden you can become paralyzed and not make any forward progress. And at some point you just have to say, all right, hold on a second. Everybody said to try all these things. I don't know exactly what to do. I just have to put my line in the water. I just have to try. I just have to put something out there. I think and it's a natural tendency. So if you're stuck in this spot of, well, I need to learn from everybody else and I need to research and I need to do all the things, right? So James Clear talks about how there's a difference between taking action and being in motion, right? Being in motion feels good. It's the planning, it's the asking questions, it's the researching. But taking action is ultimately what makes a difference. And it's like that in our businesses, right? There is a time and a place for planning and for seeing what other people are doing. But at some point, you just have to decide, all right, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to put it out there. And it might not catch the fish. It might not totally work. But in the word, and I know I've said this before, the word I like to use is experiment. I think of it as an experiment, right? All right, I'm going to try this thing. Maybe my line is going to get tangled up. Maybe I'm not going to make any sales. Maybe I'm not going to get any engagement online. Maybe my friends and family are going to have chatter about me. Maybe X, Y, and Z. But the truth is, if you don't ever try, you're not going to ever make any forward progress. You're not going to ever have success. You're not going to ever have that impact that you want. And I think about that a lot with my business. People say, Natalie, how do you stay motivated? How do you keep doing it? And I don't necessarily always feel like I know how to answer that question because I don't think motivation is constant. There's a lot of times I don't feel motivated. But what I tell myself is you just got to keep putting in the action and eventually you'll start to get that feeling, right? I talk about fishing, that feeling in your fingers. You'll start to get that feeling of, hey, this has worked in the past. And so that's like one level, right? So you hit that level and you're like, okay, it's a feeling that I have that I intuitively know this is going to work, this isn't. Then you're going to hit the next level in your company where all of a sudden you can't do it all by yourself. So you're going to have to start bringing in a team. If you bring somebody else on to do stuff that you used to do, right? If you used to be the caster, if you used to be the person catching the fish, well, guess what? If all of a sudden you have to catch 1,000 fish a day, 10,000 fish a day, one person can't possibly do that. Like the fishing limits in Idaho are 2. Like you have a limit of 2 fish you can catch a day. So if all of a sudden you want to bring home more fish, you're going to start teaching your tactics to other people. And that can be really hard because you might have had all these years of experience trying to trial and error things and do things. Or in my case, right? Like I've been doing this for a decade. I've literally been in the online space for 12 years and I have screwed up way more things than I've had success with. Yes, there's the highlight story. I've built multi-million-dollar companies online. Of course, I have done that and I'm super proud of that. But the unspoken story is that I made literally thousands of mistakes along the way. I'm still making mistakes along the way. But the difference is I make those mistakes and don't let that stop me from ever trying again. I keep saying, all right, I learned, let's look at that mistake. What went well? What didn't go well? What can we do differently? I don't have all the answers. I'm just sharing my experiences. That one of the things that I've struggled with is, as I've grown and scaled, how do I grow and scale and learn to let go of having to wear all the hats, right? Having to do everything myself, and then trusting people to take over the things that you used to do. I'll share a couple of things that I've learned, and again, I'm still learning this, I'm not perfect at it, is have gentle coaching along the way. And I recognize this is very different than what a lot of the other gurus online are going to tell you. But one of the things that I've learned is give people a chance to make mistakes, right? Just like for you to get where you're at right now, you probably had to screw up 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 times. Give people a chance to learn and make mistakes. And as they're doing that, don't just leave them on an island to make the mistakes by themselves. Be compassionate and give coaching and say, hey, I've been in that scenario too, and this is what I learned as I went through that. Or maybe say, hey, thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you're awesome at what you do. Here's some of the things that I've noticed and that I think maybe we could change. And I could be wrong here, but here's some of the things that I think we could tweak to maybe connect with people a little bit better. You have to let go of the fact that everything's going to be done exactly the same way that you would have done them, right? Because if you're trying to hold on to that control, you're going to hit a ceiling. Everything's going to get bottlenecked at you. You're never going to be able to grow and scale. You're never going to be able to impact and help people the way that you really want to do. And that's hard. It's still hard for me. The second thing is, and I don't know if this is just a personality trait of mine or if this is something I've learned over the years. I don't exactly know how to pinpoint that, but one of the things that I've learned is, I guess the only way I know how to explain this is something that I know and I've been in the throes of it, is with parenting, right? And I think a lot about the phrase like habits are caught, not taught. And with what that means is like your kids are gonna watch what you're doing and they're gonna emulate that, and they're not gonna necessarily listen to just the things that you say. They're gonna watch how you respond to things, how you do things. Is that if you really want to, and the only word I can think of is influence. If you want to help people, if you want to make an impact, if you want to influence people, what you have to do is be willing to let people make their own mistakes and then kindly guide them and say, hey, I've been there too. And this is what I learned as I went through that. Because if you just try to force feed rules to people have to learn from themselves. Like if you're only telling them things from your own experiences, it's a totally different epiphany that they have as opposed to if they experience it themselves. And I guess my main point is, I wish somebody would have told me at the beginning that it's not going to just be a linear path, right? You're going to learn certain skills that are going to help you get to this point. And then at some point, you're going to say, all right, I want to now get to this point. And then you're going to have to learn a different set of skills. And it's going to be hard. And it's going to be easy to want to revert back to what you knew before. And you have to be willing and brave enough to just say, all right, I knew how to catch fish over in this stream or this river, but this is a whole different set of circumstances for me. And I've got to be willing to be a beginner again and try this out with the level of experience that I have from catching fish over there. What I've learned up to this point is how to connect with people, but I've known how to connect with them in the ways that I've done so far. These YouTube videos, you guys, they're not, it's uncomfortable for me right now. Talking for a long period of time without breaks isn't always easy. Trying to come up with creative hooks isn't always easy. Putting yourself out there in a way that people might judge you or criticize you or talk about you isn't always easy. But I recognize that's the direction I want to go. And so I'm willing to say, okay, I don't know exactly how to do it right now. I don't have all the tools, but I'm willing to try. And the more that you try, the more that you learn, the more that feeling comes in your fingers, the more that you intuitively know, okay, when I approach things this way, it's received really well. When I approach things this way, it doesn't. When I do things this way, it works. When I do things this way, it doesn't. It's normal. It's part of the process. And if you're willing to just accept that this is what happens as you grow and scale, this is what happens as you raise kids, this is what happens as you want to catch state records. It's just part of the process. And the faster you can accept that, the faster you can recognize that, the faster you're going to see growth and success and just happiness in the journey along the way. Because none of it's perfect. None of us are. When you accept the mess and embrace that things are going to be messy, it becomes a lot easier. So I know I talked a lot tonight. I hope that was helpful. I don't know if the fishing analogies made any sense to you, but if it did, leave a comment. Let me know if this resonated with you. If you have any questions, like, let's start a conversation in the comments below. And glad you're here. Excited to see you in the next video.